Magellan, a ballad of the unyielding will of man. There are people who were not born merely to survive, but to overcome fate and to rewrite the limits of what it means to be human. Ferdinand Magellan, a name carved into history, not because he lived long, but because he dared to go farther than anyone else. He had no powerful army, no empire behind him. He had only one thing: faith. Faith that the earth was round and that man could sail around it. Magellan, rejected, betrayed, and killed. And yet, he kept moving forward, through oceans, through storms, through death itself. Because to him, will was greater than life. Part 1. Will is born from wounds. Magellan was born in an age of upheaval. Portugal, his homeland, was a naval empire where men devoted their lives to the sea. But his youth showed him something different: division, greed, war, and dreams crushed beneath the weight of power. And from those ashes, a flame was lit, the flame of a man who dared to ask, "If the world is only what we see, then why do I hear a call from lands no one has ever reached?" Magellan did not seek gold or glory. He sought a truth greater than himself. Part 2. Rejected, but never defeated. When he presented his plan to sail around the world, they laughed at him. They called him a traitor, a madman, a dreamer. Even his homeland, the nation he had served with all his youth, turned its back on him. But he did not hate. He left quietly, carrying only an unbroken faith. He went to Spain, a foreign land, where they spoke another tongue and served another king, to chase a dream no one else dared to touch. Can you imagine? The whole world against him. And yet he believed. If one man's will is strong enough, the world itself can change. Part 3. Setting sail with faith. In 1519, he set sail with 5 ships and 270 men. No one knew what lay ahead. They only knew they were sailing west, following a man their own country had disowned. At sea, they faced unending storms, hunger, cold, and despair. Then came rebellion. In the dark of the endless ocean, men rose against him. Magellan crushed the mutiny, not with violence, but with unshakable will. He did not command through fear. He led through faith. And then, the impossible happened. He discovered the Strait of Magellan, a hidden passage connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific, a path no one believed existed. But Magellan believed, and that belief opened the Pacific to all mankind. Part 4. The Journey of the Soul. After months adrift, the expedition reached faraway islands, places where Europe's maps were still blank. Magellan did not bring war. He brought light, a desire to understand, to connect through language, culture, and belief. But the world was not ready. When he arrived in the Philippines, conflict erupted, between faith and fear, between light and shadow. On the island of Mactan, he faced the chieftain Lapu-Lapu, not as an invader, but as a man with a mission. But spears do not recognize ideals. Magellan fell. The man who opened the way around the world died in a place that was never his home. Part 5. After death, the legend began. When Magellan fell, it seemed his dream had died with him. But it didn't. One ship, the Victoria, sailed on. The survivors carried within them the fire Magellan had lit. 3 years later, they returned to Spain, completing the first circumnavigation in human history. Magellan was gone, but his will still guided them, through storms, through death, through the unknown. He didn't need to live to become immortal. He only needed to dare to go, and dare to believe. Part 6. The Legacy of Will. Magellan didn't just sail around the earth. he sailed beyond the limits of mankind. From an outcast with no home to welcome him, he turned loneliness into fuel for belief. From the wounds of pride, he forged an unbreakable will. He taught us that physical strength can be destroyed, fame can be forgotten, but will, tempered by pain and trial, becomes eternal. Magellan died, but his spirit still roams the oceans. In every wave, in every soul brave enough to step beyond safety. Today, we live in an age of comfort and compromise. We are taught to avoid risk, to follow the crowd, to wait until everything is perfect before we begin. But Magellan taught the opposite. Nothing will ever be perfect. Only faith is enough. If not for the madmen like him, the world might still believe the sea was the end, and beyond the horizon lay a great abyss. Magellan's courage was not blind recklessness. It was faith, forged through loneliness, doubt, betrayal, and failure. He was afraid, and yet he went. He knew he was small, and that's how he touched greatness. Today, circling the world may take only hours by plane. But crossing the ocean of fear within yourself remains the longest journey of all. That is Magellan's true legacy, not the route on a map, but the path within the human spirit, where will conquers fear and aspiration transcends every limit. Magellan did not just open the earth, he opened humanity itself. In a world drowning in doubt, remember the man who reached the edge of the world armed with nothing but an unshakable belief. If you are facing storms, if you hear voices saying you can't, remember, a man once betrayed and killed still went around the entire earth. And he did it with nothing but an unyielding will. If Magellan's story moved you, like, subscribe, and share to keep the flame of those who dared to go beyond fear. And now ask yourself, are you standing still or still moving forward? For every great ocean begins with a single drop, and every great journey begins with a single act of faith. Magellan, the man who proved that the greatest voyage is not across the earth, but within the human soul.